everyone, my name is Lionel. I'm your host of LT Productions. You are watching I Watch You Watch. Today we are covering Divorced Sistas, currently streaming on Paramount Plus. That is their new home. This is season 1B, episode 11. I appreciate everyone for coming. Please like this video. You can also share it. Go on and hit that subscribe button and turn your notifications on, and you can leave your comments below. Now let's get into this week's episode. Okay, y'all, so this episode was kind of interesting as far as some of the things that were going on. As you can see that we're only doing an episode weekly. They only gave us a little good last week as a season opener. They're also going to be doing that to another one of the shows that I love. I love Zatima. Zatima is coming in May sometime. Is it May or June? Ooh, nah, I done forgot. But it's coming. They've already said it's coming. So they did give a release date. Hopefully we get a trailer, but it looks like that they're just going to give us 2 episodes, the premiere week, and then we get the rest of the episodes weekly. Now, the only thing that I suggest to the writer over on Zatima, because it's not Tyler anymore, y'all gonna have to pace it a little bit different, because how they have been writing those episodes, it's been like dual episodes of whatever happened in episode 5, we get the resolution in episode 6. So hopefully they come up with something else. I do know that they are filming season 5 right now, so that's cool. Anyways, now that I need to quit talking about them. All right, so Laz, he's out cold on the floor, not breathing, not responsive or anything. They're calling an ambulance and all of that. They're trying to get him to wake up. Rashida, she goes in to get some, I thought it was like smelling salts, but we find out a little bit later, she had some Narcan. I don't even know what that is. But anyways, she sprayed it in his nose, and then Laz came back to life. They're looking on his dresser, and they're seeing the drugs that he was actually taking that looks like candy. Pastor Jeff's trying to ask him, like, what is this? What all were you taking? He's just saying it's weed. At first he was like, when Pastor Jeff, like, what do you mean? You're trying to play dumb. Sir, not at this point. You just about lost your life. They were praying while they were trying to get him back together, get him back to life. But anyways, the paramedics check him out. He's at a place of being stable. And then now his parents want to question him about what's going on. Pastor Jeff said, look, you are doing more than weed. No, I'm not. And then he cops to saying that it was laced with something. Pastor Jeff said it was laced with arsenic. Or no, fentanyl. Not arsenic, because arsenic should have sent him on to glory. But yeah, I think that is the new thing that this generation, the new drug that folks are getting addicted on. I'll pray for y'all. I don't know what y'all are trying to really get out of all. I know you want that type of high and all of that. I just don't understand the drive to really run and chase after that. But my prayers are for y'all to just turn from that type of way of living and that type of treatment to your body. Because one day you're not going to wake up. So Pastor Jeff said, you're going to rehab. And of course he's saying, no, I'm not doing that. It's just weed. At this point, they want to know who gave you that weed. He don't want to rat anyone out. So then Pastor Jeff said, do you want to deal with them or do you want to deal with me? Pastor Jeff ain't playing the second half of the season. Because it's serious. It's life or death at this point. So I ain't got time to play with you. So at this point, he finally says it's Bennett's older brother. Bennett's oldest brother goes to their church, to Pastor Jeff and Rashida's church. So they said drugs right under our noses. That's bold for y'all to be doing that in the house of the Lord. Now I do know that there are folks that do things up in the church. I just did not know spreading drugs. Now, well, it's not my story, but I'm connected to it. But not connected to the story, but I'm connected to the people. But I mean, we've had people come to my old church and then there would be an exchange. Now, I don't know if they actually did it inside, but at least the drug dealers would come and then go outside. Or they probably, I think they went outside and did what the transaction. Because that's just crazy. But who knows if the exchange was actually inside of the church or not. But how that they were describing it, like, we got drug dealers up in here just doing stuff and influencing our children. He does cop that there are more people that are dealing with Bennett's older brother, and he wants the names. He's making all excuses like, I don't have my phone, and Pastor Jeff said, I got it. I actually tracked it down at one of the houses that he was at, and he was like, you're tracking my phone? Pastor Jeff said, hey, no, he didn't say that, but basically he said, yeah, I done tracked it down, and what? What are you gonna do about it? You don't even have your phone, and that's the most of your worries? That your father tracked it, that got your location? You wouldn't have had a phone. Let's see. So anyways, Pastor Jeff said, there is no question, gray area about it. You're going to rehab. So then Laz goes upstairs, and Rashida and Pastor Jeff, they just kind of like relax a little bit as far as thanking God for allowing our son to make it. And then Rashida says that the Holy Spirit told her to get Narcan last week. She had no clue what was going on. But Pastor Jeff just was excited and just praising God that he has a wife that can hear God. Because if it had not happened, who knows if Laz would still be alive at this point. We're done with that scene. Naomi and Geneva, who came by where? Oh, Geneva came by Naomi's home. Geneva was trying to get her help and all of that because she knew that she had to go in and be arrested. And Naomi's like, oh, I got that. I got Javon. And then she's like, well, you could have told me before I came over here. And Naomi was like, you didn't want to come see me? And she said, yes, I did. But anyways, Geneva was like, I think she said, I was trying to reach you, but I couldn't. But anyways, Geneva said, look, what happened to Anika, there's no way I could have been here. Then Naomi says how she actually connected to Javon. She went over to Tiffany's home, saw him in his boxes, and saw that thing. And she said, yeah, they was hunching. But of course, Geneva's not taking it well, but trying to hide it from Naomi. But she's quite snippy, and Naomi's like, what's up? Are you gonna come to my 11 a.m., the time that I got to be locked up? She said, I don't know, I'm kind of busy right now. Naomi's like, well, hopefully you could be there. So Jeff has Laz in the car and they're driving, and they have a father and son talk. Jeff does apologize that he had to get rough with him. Laz says that I understand. And then Pastor Jeff said, I don't think you do. I sheltered you too much. Laz says, I don't think I'm sheltered. Well, that's interesting, because a lot of children would. But anyways. But he goes on to say, look, I got a rough past with your grandfather. He was abusive towards me, my brothers, and your grandmother. The brothers are all strung out on drugs at this point. And basically, because of how far gone they are, he's just waiting for the day to get the call that the brothers are gone. That's how bad it is. Jeff tells Laz that you're special. Laz says, I don't want to be special. And that's a lot of what preachers' kids really deal with. Because of the position that they never asked for to be in, there's a spectacle on them. There's a pressure on them to be perfect. But Pastor Jeff said, I'm not perfect. Not by far. Yes, because of who you are and within this family, you can't get away with the same things that other people can get away with. Laz says, I want to be normal. Laz is also angry that people size him up by saying, well, you're going to be a preacher or a pastor just like your dad. And then everybody's trying to fix him up with their daughters. Of course, so you could have that prestige, that name, that title of being the pastor's son. And I wouldn't be surprised of people wanting them to hook up sexually with Laz. I shouldn't have said, well, whatever. Hooking up with Laz sexually so that they'll always be tied to the pastor. That stuff goes on in the church world. And then, more than likely, they'll push those two to get married. Yeah, he ends up saying, you can't get away with what others get away with. Yeah, so they had a good talk, I think. Of course, Laz is not really settled in all that, and I get it. And he just got to process it out. Many have ran because of the families that they were in. I don't know what's next for Laz and how he actually just goes through life. However, I think that the reason that he's even doing drugs is a way of rebellion, and rebelling against the system and the legacy that he never asked for. But he don't rebel against getting money and getting all of the good stuff that comes with being a part of Pastor Jeff and Rashida's life and what they got going on. Reject it all, sir, and then I could respect you a whole lot better. But I still understand where you're coming from, though. Tiffany and Javon, they're having sex. However, Rashida has arrived. And I guess we're finding out that all the women have a key. Which now, I'm confused. Because in the last episode, Naomi came by. And the alarm going off. And you were so surprised because you weren't expecting anyone. No, you weren't expecting anyone, but it could have definitely been one of the girls. Just saying, Tiffany. That was a little weird. So Rashida was like, hey, I'm here. Da, 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 da. I heard you. I heard you when you was Y'all know. Y'all know what she said. I think Javon ended up leaving, but he came downstairs to greet Rashida and all that. He was wondering if he was going to get the whole judgment walk and all of that. And Tiffany said, well, she's cool, you know. I mean, she's still a pastor's wife and all of that. She's open-minded. So it's cool. It's not, I mean, you know who your friends are. And you're still choosing to be friends with them. You can't just preach at them 24/7. You can't even influence them if you're going to be that type of way. Either you don't be friends with them, and that's just that. Not no either, because you just can't do that. Of course, you can still give your thoughts, but be wise about it too. Rashida said, what about taking it slow like you said that you're going to do? She's like, I know, but that thing, he must have a ding-a-ling of gold. That's basically what she said. Tiffany's like, you know, I really want to take him to lunch because I got to know what's going on. Geneva won't tell me anything and all that. Rashida said, I don't think that that's a good idea. Rashida, I don't know. You're going to be stuck in the middle of all of this eventually. Oof. Where am I at? And then Rashida was like, I don't encourage it. Oh, she said she don't encourage it. Rashida was like, you know, I had all these missed calls and all that. And Tiffany says that I called you because I wanted you to talk me out of it. And she said, lady, look, don't call me to talk you out of something that you were going to do anyways. It's kind of this way of, it's that way of trying to trick yourself as if, ooh, I tried to do the right thing, but I just couldn't hold it. No, your intentions were there all along. And it kind of makes you look like you're the good girl still. Nah, stop that. She said, look, how this relationship starts, you know, if it starts out with sex, basically sex is the only thing that's going to be the common denominator within this whole relationship. That's it. Naomi. Hakeem comes by, and I guess he's ready. He's asking what's the plan, because remember last season, the plan was that we need to take Franklin out. Naomi, to me, and I think that I think I am right. She's lying. She's saying, she's describing Franklin as this very OCD, hellion type of person that was abusing her. If she didn't do her lipstick right, she said one time she came in his presence and something was off with the lipstick and he slapped her so crazy. That sounded a whole lot like, there's a movie back in the 90s called Sleeping with the Enemy, starring Julia Roberts. Crazy man. But anyways, and then she went on and trying to fire him up some more to make sure that he do what he do. Gonna say that Franklin molested their son and turned their son against her. Naomi. Now, we don't like Franklin over here, but don't do that. Hakeem was like, you should have told me that earlier, you know? Ooh. All you're doing this is trying to get Hakeem ready to do what he needs to do and not to back out. And I think that that's crazy. Very crazy. Okay. Jeff and Laz, they go to a mortuary, basically like a medical examiner's place, a business. They test him out. They do see the fentanyl in there, and the doctor's like, look, you were blessed this time. And then he takes them to the morgue to show Laz, look at all these bodies here. And I think that this was a way to scare him straight. Like, don't do this to yourself. I think that that's better. I'm not that rehab, because you don't really know how severe his problem is. Yes, he done passed out or almost was gone, but just dragging him to rehab, like he don't even think he got a problem. So I'm glad Pastor Jeff did that. I'm really liking Pastor Jeff and Rashida's characters a whole lot more. Not that I didn't beforehand, but I have been trying to grasp and to understand them. And I think I do have a better understanding, even though this is just episode 3 of the other half of the season 1. Of course, I thought that, as I said in the last review, I thought that they had the worst marriage. But no, they're just going through it. And I've been able to see a different side to them. And it's actually cool. Naomi and Geneva. Naomi comes by Geneva's office. And basically, Geneva wants to know why you're here. She has to turn herself in and all that. Naomi said, look, there's a possibility that they may keep me. And Geneva said, I'm glad you've come to that realization. Well, look, I need to hide this money because he's not going to get any of this. So she gave Geneva $5 million. She's got others tied up in other accounts, Swiss bank accounts, somewhere in Asia and all that stuff. So, like, make sure you put that money in a safety deposit box, she said. Geneva's like, I don't really want to hold on to this money. And she said, who else am I going to give it to you? You can give it to your son so he can give it to his father? Absolutely not. Well, why not give it to Rashida so she can give it to the church? I mean, why not? Anyway, so she leaves at that point. Geneva is again snappy with her, and she's asking, what is the issue? And she won't say anything. All right, so Pastor Jeff has made it to the church, and he's meeting William. But before he gets to his office, he has to pass by Myron. Myron's wanting to have to talk with him, and Pastor Jeff is quite cold with him. He goes into his office, greets William, and he says, look, the baby's not mine. And I know Geneva is lying. He's now going around doing this process of elimination. And he can only see who was around the time and has now pinpointed on Jeff. And Pastor Jeff like, what? What are you talking about? Absolutely not me. Don't come over here with all of that stuff. You know, and it's so crazy that you don't even suspect your best friend. Why not? You two have acknowledged yourselves as friends, William and Pastor Jeff. So it's just not suspecting that Javon was doing something with your wife? That's interesting to me. Then he said that there's another person, Quincy, that he's got to go question and all that. Pastor Jeff said, I don't really recommend that for you. Don't do that. Let's just, well, he said, well, I know Geneva tells Rashida everything. Can you kind of like help me and Pastor Jeff said, no, we don't tell each other and give up what we are counseling someone, or who we're counseling and what they have said to one another. I think that is so great. Pastor Jeff said, why don't we go out to dinner? Me, Rashida, you, and Geneva, and you can get all the answers that you want. And William's like, I don't think that's going to really happen because she's not going to say what's up. But anyways, he convinced them, and I guess they're going to go out to dinner and see what happens. What's next? Rashida meets with Myron. As they're talking, Myron was like, please don't fire me. He just talks about, you guys have been so good to me. Even Rashida was like, you are the best assistant that we've ever had. Da, 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 da. She says, look, I know what it really takes and how you got to be as far as being connected to the ministry and to Pastor Jeff and all that. You do develop a relationship, but what you cannot do is cross the line. Rashida point blank asked Myron, do you want to sleep with him? With Pastor? And he was like, no. Oh, so you're just attracted to him? And he said, ma'am. Well, what's going on? Myron says, it's just that nobody's ever been this nice to me. I didn't have a father figure. I love him, but not like that. And she was like, oh, I do think it's like that. It's like that. Rashida recommends a therapist, and Myron's like, I'm not struggling. Well, you did admit that you have some daddy issues, right? Rashida said, point blank, period. We need everyone around us who is clear about who they are. So if you're struggling in your sexuality and all that stuff, we can't really use you. We can't trust you in this way. Then Rashida gives a warning. She said, if I hear that you are attracted to my husband, or my husband is attracted to you, I'm gonna bust your head wide open with the Bible. So scared him straight. So two people been scared straight this episode, Laz and Myron. Yeah, Myron, you definitely do have a crush, attraction towards this man. You are now just in denial of your sexuality and all of that. But you don't even know how to control yourself. That's the thing. Anyways, we move on. Javon and Tiffany, they've made it out towards the police, at the police precinct, and it looks like Naomi's late. Next thing you know, Javon starts flirting, saying, "Ooh, you smell good," getting all in her ear. I'm rolling my eyes because it's just like, ugh. Especially when we know what you're about, Javon. It's just like, ugh. Don't come around here acting, no, don't do that to her. So anyways, Geneva approaches and says, how professional. Tiffany says, how's Anika? You care? Geneva says, I would have been like, who the are you? Anika said, of course, I care. I even wanted to stay. And Geneva said, well, if you really cared, you should have stayed. Ma'am. But anyway, she starts being very itchy with a B and was saying about, you don't even need to watch Anika. I'm going to have Rashida do it. And Javon said, that's great. She's going to be coming with us to Italy because that's what she said about watching Anika while she goes, her and will go to Italy and all that. So she said, you're off the hook. I'm like, Lord Jesus. Then Tiffany was like, I don't know why you're acting like an itch. And then Javon says, baby. And Geneva said, baby? Like, Tiffany, I know you want to keep prying her and wanting to see what's up, but it's right all over her face as to what's up. But anyways, Geneva walks off at that point because she's upset. And Geneva, you're just giving it away. And that thing got you acting this silly and crazy. Crazy. Interesting. I enjoyed this episode. Again, there's just a lot of things I'm starting to understand. Naomi, that was foul. That was foul for you to do. But anyways, Y'all let me know what you thought about this episode. And Geneva and Javon just give me ugh. I appreciate everyone for coming. Like, comment, subscribe, and until the next one, peace.